You're listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Once again, here's your hosts, Gary Kelley and Brad Avergon.
Welcome to the second half of All Things Real Estate. I'm Gary Kelley with RE/MAX Executive Realty, and I'm joined again by
Brad Avergon with Envision Bank and Mortgage.
So, Brad, in the first half of the show, we talked about kind of what we've seen in the first couple of weeks up to the date of recording, which is January 12th. What do you see coming down the road in the future? How are you forecasting your business and the economy around us, given that there are some things that are going to be happening? We've got a vaccine that's now starting to go out, which is a good thing. We've got a hopefully peaceful transition of power in Washington, which is going to create change, if nothing else. And, you know, we're eventually, what I see is that the winter's going to whack us a little bit in February, but then we will come out the other side of that, and there will be flowers and birds and singing and all that. How do you see the rest of the year playing out?
I think 2021 is going to be a good year, a lot easier than 2020 in many regards. I think that, I think we'll still be constrained in inventory, but I do think we're going to see more inventory, significantly more inventory than we see right now on the marketplace. So I'm hopeful for some of my first-time home buyers that, and people that may be listening to the show that may be frustrated right now saying, gosh, there's just nothing out there to buy. I think there's going to be more out there to buy. That being said, there may be more buyers out there as well. I think that there's going to be, I'm going to call it, once the vaccines kind of start really roll into place and are more the common, the more the norm than not the norm, and people start coming out of their homes, I think there's going to be a sense of euphoria, and I think there's going to be a sense of let's make it happen now because we've been cooped up in our houses, so let's go buy a house. Let's go on vacation. Let's go to restaurants. All of the things we really haven't been able to, or felt we haven't been able to do for the last year or so. And assuming the economy keeps rolling along, the stock market seems to be, despite all the other crazy things going on in the world, it seems to be moving along. I think we're going to be in good shape. I think we're going to come out of this economically with less impact than I thought we would. Some of that due to the PPP money that helps stimulate the economy and help people get through the tough times, and companies get through the tough times. But I think overall, things are going to be good. As far as interest rates go, we're forecasting that we may see a little bit of a pickup, maybe an eighth or a quarter, but nothing too drastic, at least for now.
From my perspective, I want to be optimistic. I want to be enthusiastic. I want to say people are going to be vaccinated, and by summer, it's going to be back to normal. I don't see it happening that quickly. I actually was in my own non-scientific, without Dr. Fauci by my side, thinking that we might be kind of out of this the end of the year. I had my annual physical yesterday, and I asked my doctor, and he says, you don't know what variants are going to be. He thinks that it may be 4 years. But I would submit that whether your horizon is a year or 4 years for back to normal, whatever that means, I think that we have in many ways, not always, been figuring out how to live in this situation. It sucks. Not going to say it doesn't, but if going out and showing houses means I've got to put a mask on and I've got to use hand sanitizer in my car and stuff like that, honestly, that's a small price to pay to be able to go out and continue to do business and help people with homes and meet their needs for their lifestyles. I know that there are a number of people that continue to stay in their homes and not go out and have food delivered and that kind of stuff. And at some point, those people are going to stick their heads back out. I don't know if that's going to be in a year, 4 years, 6 months. Don't know what that's going to look like. But I think you will see at some point folks saying, I don't want to be in this house anymore. I don't want to worry about shoveling snow. I still want to move south. And they're going to, at some point, stick their nose out. And as long as they do so carefully, I think that that will help ease the inventory problem.
I would agree with you on both regards. I think that there's it's been a little bit of an interesting change in lifestyle in the sense of this mask wearing and being cautious, and people checking your temperature when you walk into a place. I think honestly some of those things may continue. It makes sense. I was discussing with my wife, who's a preschool teacher. I said, you may find yourself at the door with a thermometer checking a kid's, as they thermoscan. So when the kids are walking in, make sure they don't have a fever. That's not a bad thing, right? That's schools tend to be spreaders of colds and things like that, viruses. So that's not a bad thing. And in China, they've been wearing masks for years, because of smog and natural environments. But when you think about it, not necessarily when you're in a public place, but not a bad thing to wear a mask. It keeps people that might be sneezing and coughing and colds and things like that.
Especially with a face like yours, Brad.
Exactly, Gary. Who wants to see this mug? So I don't think those are bad things, but I also agree with you. I think that may be something that's moving forward. But at the same time, I think people are going to come out. And I think the idea of being able to go to a supermarket and socialize in restaurants and bars, and I think that's going to be a great thing. And I think we're going to get there in 2021. I hope so.
It's been a scary time. You definitely feel sorry for the families that have been directly impacted with people that have perished as a result of all of this. And the rest of us, I think, have muddled our way through. I don't understand why in Massachusetts we have tons of rules, all aimed at helping us. And, Florida seems to be the wild, wild South. But at the same time, if those regulations, and I'm not going political at all, okay, I'm not going to go there, have no interest in going there. But if those regulations are helping make a difference for us, I'm actually for that. Because although I think that the restaurants that have the severe limitations on the number of people that can sit in them, the fact that you've got to be home by 10 o'clock, at least for me, hasn't had an impact, because generally speaking, I'm home by 10 o'clock anyway. So, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
And I think in terms of, I hate seeing hospitals overrun with patients, and that we're using the DCU Center as an example of a field hospital. At the same time, the common cold, not taking as many people, et cetera, because we're taking additional precautions. And those types of things, I think, when this is all behind us, people will sit there and say, it's not so bad to wear a mask in certain cases, or to keep a little distance between us and someone else.
Exactly. I would agree with you. And I think economically, I think, we're going to come out of this fast, in my opinion, faster than I would have said 7 or 8 months ago. When we were in the middle, I'm like, wow, this is going to be, unbelievable. It's going to take us, decades to come out of it. I was surprised how resilient companies were. I know small businesses have been hurt drastically, and I think I'm so glad that the Fed stepped up with PPP money, because those folks need support. And we've been trying to, I know you've been doing the same thing. We've been trying to support local businesses, here in Westboro, whenever possible, staying away from the big franchises and going to the local shops, just to support them. And I think that if I were to see anything go in 2021, I think that's where we want to keep our focus, is to keep Middle America going, keep everything moving. And that overall, I think if that happens, I think we're going to come out of this pretty good.
Not everything has been bad from this. I think from a real estate perspective, doing virtual tours is an excellent thing and should continue. I was talking to an attorney colleague of ours, David Jaime, and he says, listen, Gary, I used to do all my closing at the registry. He says, I haven't been there since this all started. And he says, I don't see the need to ever go back. He says, I'm doing it in offices. I'm sending it over electronically, and it's all working fine. So there are improvements and efficiencies that have come out of this that I think we're going to continue to see, which overall isn't bad. Brad, as we bring this session to a close, how optimistic are you, scale of 1 to 10 for this coming year?
I would give it an 8 for sure.
Yeah, I would 7, 8 is kind of where I would put it too. It's not clear sailing yet. We've got many more bumps in the road, but it's definitely on the uptick as opposed to, jumping out of the building.
Right.
Which
Sure.
you're recording on the first floor. I'm recording on the second floor. Neither one of us will die with a jump. How does someone reach you, Brad?
Best way to reach me, Gary, is via my cell number. That's 978-375-5531, or via email, which is Avergon, that's B-A-V as in Victor, E-R-G-O-N, @envisionbank.com. And Gary, how do they reach you?
My phone number is 508-733-6005, and I am Gary at movewithgary.com, and that's my website as well, movewithgary.com. Thank you, Brad. Have a good month. We'll talk again next month. Well, actually, we'll talk to 1,000 times in between, but we'll talk again next month.
Sounds good, Gary. Be well.
You've been listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.